Welcome to the View from the Top podcast.
In our episode today, we've got Ashley Hawks, who is a serial entrepreneur and currently is the owner of SOAR Leadership Groups. Ashley sees it all. She has had a successful exit as an entrepreneur. She has learned so much along the way about how to take care of herself, how to really focus on what matters and making sure all parts of her life are balanced, how to redefine your purpose after achieving a certain level of success and really getting back to really what makes you happy, what brings you joy on a day-to-day basis, and how to reach a point in your success where you don't get up by an alarm clock and where every day you're actually excited for the work that you get to do. So join us to hear Ashley share her journey and her view from the top. Welcome, Ashley. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So thank you for being a guinea pig, for choosing to, as I relaunch, for being such a great friend and being willing to come on here and have this very important conversation. Before we started recording, Ashley and I were just talking about kind of the first time we really met, and we'll get to that in the story. But, I think the most important thing in this podcast, in sharing our stories, the good, bad, and the ugly, is because someone on the other side of that's listening to this needs to hear this right now. Mm-hmm. So the people I'm choosing to have on this podcast are the people who are not going to sugarcoat, are not going to give you just the highlight reel. We're going to talk about the journey. We're here to talk about the climb, and the climb has good parts and maybe parts we would rather forget, but we can't because they're part of our journey. So I'd love for you to just start by just giving us a quick overview of, I know it's hard with all of our years of experience, but what has that leadership journey been like for you? Give us just kind of who Ashley's been and how you've gotten to this point, and then we'll dig in.
I feel like I fell into entrepreneurship really early. My mind goes a million miles an hour, and I always have these ideas. And then next thing you know, I'm putting together an event and reaching out to sponsors. And my mom owned a bridal shop here in the Twin Cities for over 25 years. So I grew up selling wedding dresses, working with women, learning how to sell. But through that, the wedding industry is so intertwined and it's so community focused. And I met wonderful people, and, true Ashley fashion, I'm putting together different workshops on the weekends and bringing in, cake and photography sponsors. I would bring in a makeup artist because it's easier to sell a wedding dress when she's got a little makeup on and she feels good. And I started my first company when I was 22 because I saw a need. And actually where I really got started as an entrepreneur, I met these two guys in my 20s through the bridal shop, and they had this vision of how they wanted to revolutionize the wedding industry. And this is years ago. This is going to date myself, but this was before Instagram, before LinkedIn. Facebook was still kind of a college app, but they wanted to help create videos for these small business owners in the wedding industry and then use them on the Facebook to help people connect with brides better. And brides could use it as a tool to get more of a behind the scenes look at wedding vendors versus just looking through a magazine and picking somebody. And I loved it. It was such a perfect place for me because it was in a community that I knew. It was a customer that I understood, and it was fun. I was using my gifts and I was doing something new. I was trailblazing all kinds of new ideas. Instagram came out. We were one of the first ones on Instagram, and learned a lot through that. Eventually sold the company to David's Bridal 10 years after we started it. It's so funny because there's a million things that happen in that window, but you're like, started, sold it, sounds easy. Wasn't. And served some time at David's. I was there about a year and a half, learned so much. I mean, that really opened my eyes to a whole different world. Had never stepped foot in corporate before. Right. Loved it, traveled, learned so much, built a great team, still got to do my Forever Bride, but it was renamed and scaling it a little bit differently. And then decided to leave because I really wasn't in line with my superpowers, with my gifts, and was really reaching that burnout fast. And God, I wish it was something that we could say, I learned so much from the top. I learned so much by reaching the top of the mountain. And really, for me, it was those really low days where you learn the most about yourself. And, I call it like pushing off from the bottom of the pool. Sometimes it sucks. like reaching that point gives you the opportunity to go, okay, which direction do we want to go? And what did I learn from this? And how do I not want to end up here again? So I started a company called SOAR in 2023. And SOAR, without being too dramatic, I feel like it saved my life. I remember just being on the floor of one of my friends' offices almost weekly, crying and just, I wasn't myself. I was going through some health issues, which I'm sure just made everything worse, because anybody that's had chronic health issues, when you're sick for months at a time without having a single day where you feel like yourself, it starts messing with your head.
Does.
Like you're so sick of feeling sick. And so between all those things, I couldn't remember who I was. I couldn't remember what kind of gifts I had. I couldn't remember what I was good at. I couldn't remember the last time I had fun, or I was silly, or I just didn't take myself too seriously. I was this version I did not love. And I remember he handed me a yellow legal pad and a pen and would run through these exercises of, tell me about the last time you laughed. Tell me about the last time that you were excited to go someplace. Anybody that's dealt with depression and anxiety, you know that like going to a place and getting ready and getting in your car, it can be one of the hardest things. Once you're there, usually it's a lot easier and it's fine, but getting there can be so hard. And so, I'm going through, when was the last time that I was excited to go to someplace? And what was that like? And what kind of conversations was I having? What kind of people do I like to be surrounded with? And did all these different exercises where we looked over this after a course of a couple hours, and I went, it's really clear what I need to do.
Right.
It's helping people build businesses. It's having fun while doing it. It's having real conversations. I'm so sick of the social media and, join my program and take $1,000 a day. And none of that is real, but it also isn't something that can be done alone, right? Sometimes in our low points, we stop reaching out for help. We feel like we don't want to be a burden on other people. And it's all backwards. So I started SOAR, and it's 2.5 years now. And it's been this incredible community of bringing good people together to grow.
And this is why you popped into my head, right? When I was relaunching the podcast, and, I don't even know all the, deep details of your story, but I think it's really interesting how you reconnected to who you were. And I think this is a common story that you hear from really successful people. Because if I were to take your highlight reel, it would be early entrepreneur in their 20s, exit to a brand that we all know, right? So everyone else would sit around and go, wow, like she's successful. And you're at the top of that. And the stress piece is real. Like the amount of executives I know that have either sold a business or left a private equity or really demanding corporate role, and then had serious health issues almost on coming out of that because they were running on adrenaline. And the chronic stuff is there the whole time, and you're just ignoring it and not taking care of yourself. And so what's one thing that people may not know? People that know you, you are out there in the community because you do work with so many entrepreneurs and business leaders. What's one thing someone may not know about that client? It's like what you went through. You shared a lot there in the intro, but what's something that would maybe surprise people that see Ashley as like, she's got it all together?
Oh, gosh. So I went through a program with Renee Rodriguez twice, actually. It's called Amplify. It's basically a 2-day program. It's very intense, where you kind of go through some moments of growing up. We're most formidable through like 9 to 13. So I'm raising kids around that age. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of pressure. Okay. Back in those years, and usually there's great people and there's difficult people, and there's some amazing situations and maybe some hard ones. And all of those things really shape who you are going to become, for the better and worse. So I went through this course, and you start by talking about some of your superpowers and some of the things that make you unique. What are you great at? And then you look back at some of those time frames growing up, and you'll start to see some correlations.
Totally.
And the group I was with, they all had these wonderful stories of, oh, I had this wonderful grandmother. She was such an inspiration, and this, and now because of that, I do this. And I had a really hard time with this program because I went through some really hard stuff as a kid that I did not want to deal with. I did not want to talk about. But what I learned was it directly impacted who I am and why I do what I do. And I was forced. So I was like, I have to talk about this. I haven't talked about this in 30 years, but how beautiful that something so shitty.
Yes.
Where I felt alone. I felt nobody saw me. Nobody heard me. I felt so alone. And now that has translated into like the biggest mission of who I am is making sure that people, they feel not only welcome, but they feel safe and they feel like they're part of a community, because that is strength like you cannot imagine. And entrepreneurship is the most wonderful thing I think in the whole world, but it's also the freaking hardest thing in the entire world. And we are not designed to do that alone. And I love building businesses, but I can tell you from doing it with a community and doing it by yourself, it's a lot more fun and a lot more profitable to do it with some good people. Right. So it is interesting how some of those hard things, when you look back at it, you go, oh, it makes sense why I'm such why I'm so passionate about this, why I'm so crazy about making sure people feel like they have their people, they have their group.
And it's because you did the work first. And this is the thing that I think leaders that are listening need to hear, is that inner work, what you did in that Amplify program, is hard, and no one's going to force you to do it. You chose to do it. And this is the issue, is most of us go through this climb, we get to the top and we think it's just another mountain we're supposed to climb, right? There's another peak. And so we just keep climbing and we choose to not do the hard work. The work that does that assessment all the way back to our childhoods, which there is a lot of trauma. And I call big T trauma, little t trauma. It doesn't all have to be big dramatic trauma, but it forges who you are and what you believe. And if you don't ever go back and challenge some of that, that's just who you will always live your life as. So I want to just commend you for doing that work, to give that space for other people to say, like, that's the hard work I now need to do. So going back to the climb, right, when you were in the midst of building the business, and maybe even during the time when you started to realize there's something here, right? We're going to have an exit, which is a check the box kind of moment for an entrepreneur. Can you describe to us a time when everything on the outside, like if I was sitting watching the Ashley story, I was like, wow, look at what she's done. And on the inside, you were miserable, or you were like, nobody would believe this is what it actually feels like.
I feel like I started building Forever Bride during this like girl boss era. I'm moving into a new office and I was going through some boxes and I had all these paintings. It's like, grind, hustle, girl boss, CEO, all these like cliche things. And it was, I don't know what we were thinking of telling ourselves that is so worthy to miss dinners every night. And I was back to work full time with my first baby at 6 weeks. And my second baby was 2 weeks old when I dropped him off at my mother-in-law's and went back to the office full time. Like, I don't know what in my mind told me that was the honorable thing to do. I almost prided myself on sitting there, every day being this, and inside it was killing me. I mean, I missed my son's first steps. Like stupid stuff like that still haunts me, and I try not to hold myself to that. But really, yeah, you're right. From the outside, everything looked great, and I was pushing myself way too hard. And again, when you don't have that close group of people that can really see you, and you're trying to keep up this outer shell all the time, and what happens is that shell starts to get harder and harder, where it becomes more difficult to finally go, hey, actually, the truth is I do need help, because everybody around you thinks that you're good and you don't want to let them down. And then that voice, I talk a lot about, like, this voice in your head. I sound crazy, but there's Ashley and then there's this other Ashley, and that voice will start to tell you and will get louder, like, no, you don't want to bother them with your problems. And they're going to think this way of you, and that's going to get around, or you're going to lose clients, or you're going to lose credibility. Yep. And the truth is, when you let that voice go rampant for too long, it gets really hard to control. Right? Think of like a puppy. You let the puppy on the couch for the first couple weeks or months of having a puppy, and then you change your mind and you go, no, puppy, you can't go on the couch anymore. And he's like, yeah, but I've been going on the couch for a couple weeks. Like, you have to get control of that voice early on, I feel like, so.
Was there a moment, I find for some successful people, right? They have this moment of just like, you had a realization something needs to change. Do you remember a moment? Was it a period of time? Like, what was that? That was kind of, I won't say breaking point, because I think you're breaking through, you're not breaking, like when none of us are breaking, we're just breaking through to a level. But when did that happen, or what did that feel like for you when that was coming on?
Oh God, I feel like I have like a dozen of different moments, and that'll give you those like brick to the face moments. And I remember those, and I'd be like, no, but I think I got this instead. Like we think that we're so in charge of this. I married this incredible man. We've been together for 20 some years. So over half my life, I've been with this guy. And I think what happened is I started really taking him for granted, because he stepped up so much when I told him, I want to join this startup called Forever Bride. I really believe in it. I mean, he stepped up as far as housework and kids and just all the things so I could grind.
Yeah.
And what happened was we just started drifting apart so much, and I didn't notice. And all of a sudden one day, actually, I was in a peer group. And I remember bringing up, because in the group, the style was you would, bring up an issue, and then we would talk about it. And I was like, well, I don't really have an issue to share. My business is doing great. Like, we're killing it. We met our goals for Q3 already. Like, we're hiring more people. But we're on the verge of separation, my husband and I. And I remember everyone kind of like cocked their heads. We're like, well, but business is good, right? Like, yep. Business, like, it wasn't the place. And I just remember going, okay, so here I am in this peer group, the place that I'm trying to build relationships and trying to be real. And I had been very real and vulnerable with business issues, but I realized I didn't have my people to talk to about non-business issues, which as an entrepreneur, they're all connected, whether you like it or not.
They are.
Like, it's really hard to separate. And and we're still together. Yep. But it was a rough patch there to go, oh my gosh, how did I let this happen? How did I like, we have become so far apart. Like, we don't recognize each other. We're ships passing in the night. And anyone who's been through that, it's hard to rebuild that. There's a lot of healing.
But you need the people that are, so it reminds me, 2 weeks ago, I got a text from one of our clients, CEO, and they just gone through private equity, and so he's in new territory. And he's up to the challenge, right? But he said, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, he never texts like that, right? So I'm in New York City. I'm like, I'm just picking up the phone. I'm going to call him. And he's telling me about what's going on, and I'm helping him through it. And he's working like crazy. And he wanted me to help him solve the business issue. And out of the blue, I said, how's your marriage? And he said, not great. And he took a big, deep breath. And there was just a moment of silence. And we both just let it be silent. I'd never met his wife. But I'm sure because he's a wonderful guy. I'm sure and I said, you got to we got to focus on that first. And the business is part of that. And he was like, no one else would have said that to me. They would have just said, fix the business problems. That's the problem we have right now, Ashley, is like, just put up a front, pretend like it's all okay. And it's miserable behind the scenes. And then you're trying to keep it all together for your day job. And so many people can relate to this. So I appreciate you sharing that story, because it's hard to keep it all together. So how did that recovery or transformation process, like, right, when you had that realization and you're like, something's got to change, how do you take that first step? Because all you know is grind, and grind has gotten you to where you've been. How do you shift that wiring?
Usually there's one or two people, right? Because I had a million friends, and yet I had no friends. Right. And so usually you're going to find that those one or two people that you can actually open up to, and they usually see it before you do.
They do.
Right. You're going to go, okay, I was wondering when you were going to come around to this.
Oh, they just keep saying, how are you doing? And they just keep asking you and waiting for you to realize you're not doing well.
But they see it. They see it long before we do.
They do.
And again, it's that voice in our head that is such a liar that says like, oh, you don't want to tell them about it. And then you do. And you're like, that was, they didn't mind at all. Like,
right.
So just overcoming that voice, I feel like, is step one. One of the interesting things that we do in our groups, and this is something that I had to learn through marriage counseling and, working, we've got a great church that we belong to, is kind of this like inside out mentality. And so, like, for example, with our peer groups, it's not about solving business issues. It's how do we help Ashley become the best version of Ashley. And then that best version is going to make better business decisions. That better version of Ashley is going to show up and speak to her husband differently. She's going to talk to her kids in a nicer tone. She's going to, talk to her employees in a different tone. So it starts with that first, versus I had this mentality years ago of, once everything is perfect around me, then I'll be nice to my husband, and then I'll have time to cook my kids' dinner, and then I will, plan a fun trip for all of the employees. Like I had this, and of course, anybody that always does that of like, once we get here, then the marriage will be good, or once we get here, then I'll be able to take my kids on the trip, or then we'll be able to. It never happens. Like you have to have things great now internally. And it is a unstoppable, wonderful ripple effect that will start just oozing out of you. But again, it's that voice that tries to trick you and says, don't worry about it. Once everything is perfect, then you'll be happy. Then you can relax a little bit.
I think that, yes, the voice. And the other thing I want to know if it happened for you, because we talk to a lot of leaders, is that voice is also driven at times by status and ego. And can really struggle to let go of a previous identity. So meaning I could never imagine not doing what I'm doing now, because I spent how many years climbing the ladder to become a CFO, and now I'm miserable as a CFO, but that's who I am. Like, how can I let that go? So did you have a moment, even when you sold your business, and right, again, success, everyone would say that's a huge success. How did your identity, how did you navigate that?
It's exactly what happened. I felt like it was this Cinderella, like perfect story. Girl grew up in her mom's bridal shop and then sold her company to David's Bridal, and now is this, corporate executive. I mean, it was the dream job. It was the absolute dream job. I was working with all kinds of amazing people. I loved the CEO at the time, had just this beautiful vision for where he wanted to take the company. Like I was in my dream job, and yet you're right. Like it was not the right place for me. And for me to be able to step away from that top tier, like I don't know how to get any higher than David's Bridal in the wedding industry. But there was this really big moment that happened on the yellow legal pad where I went, oh my gosh, it's not the wedding industry. It was helping people. And I felt like I had lost sight of that small business. I had lost sight of having my community. I had been traveling around so much for that year and a half. I lost touch with all of these local business owners, with all these events. And, you think of how lucky we are to have, the Twin Cities Business and the Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal and Team Women. Like there's all these amazing organizations that are so supportive. And I'd lost touch with everybody. Right. And there was something about it. I don't know. I love the Twin Cities. I hate the weather, but I love the Twin Cities. I just roots here. And to not have my people, to not have a community anymore was really starting to wear on me.
Well, and you were looking to get back to kind of that core of your purpose is what I hear too. And that what you had built had done that for a period of time. And then you'd lost sight of it because you put it all in whatever that title was, right? Or that success as an entrepreneur. And when most of us dig back down to the purpose, that purpose that was with us when we were early adolescents, it can look a lot of different ways, right? So that purpose is now showing up in what you're doing that has nothing to do with the bridal industry. Yet you, on your forehead, were the bridal industry. That's what people knew you as.
They go, "Oh, my daughter's getting married. You still plan weddings?" You go, "No, I never did plan weddings." But like, I was like the wedding person that people still think I planned weddings.
You sort of go through that perspective shift and do the work that you did. Was there a belief or a mindset or something you had to unlearn?
Yes. So I now, again, I've done more work, internal work in the last couple of years than I have my whole life. And it's so fun, right? Because it's like you figure out the rules to the game and now you can actually play the game. And one of the things that I had come up with, and I never played video games really, a little bit, but I have this thought that life is like a video game. And it's a really hard concept to grasp because I think some people really like the idea of, well, it's not my fault that that I'm in this situation. I was raised in a really tough family, and my circumstance or it's so hard to go, no, everything that I have and I am that I do is because of choices that I made. If I'm in a video game and I get to choose how my character is dressed, and am I going to put on a little bit of makeup, or am I going to wear sweatpants? Am I going to go to the gym in the morning, or am I going to go get donuts? Am I going to go spend time at this networking event, or am I going to go to this party with some people that I probably shouldn't be spending time with? Every decision that you make is taking your little video game character around the board, and all of those choices affect your health and your bank account and your reputation and your heart, all of those things. And over time, it really impacts on where you're at, what level you're on. And so for me, it was just taking radical accountability for where I was, even my health, right? I mentioned I dealt with some stupid health issues for years. And it was like, okay, I'm taking full accountability for how far this has gone. And now it's up to me to fix it. Instead of just sitting and waiting for doctors and waiting for results and taking prescriptions, I got rid of all of that and started working with some natural doctors and going, what do I need to do? What do I need to change? What kind of lifestyle things? And I got a little crazy with it, but it worked. And I'm off everything, and I'm the healthiest I've ever been in 40 years. Right. But it's that radical accountability, and it is hard. It's really hard.
It's hard. And when the world feels so out of control, there are things we control. There is more than we realize, I think, as leaders. And sometimes you can also find peace in those things, even if they're not the way you want them to be, but moving your body every day. I control that. I can't control what's in the daily news cycle. I can't control what comes out of the mouth of some of our, you can't control those things. But I can control how I fuel myself and what I do. Sometimes that certainty is like all I have some days as an entrepreneur, right? Is the things I can do for me.
Control. So my son, there's a quote, any mother out here or parent knows the Dog Man books, but my little 9-year-old is obsessed with Dog Man. And there's a quote in one of the books he always says all the time. He goes, Mom, and in Dog Man, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. I'm like, that's right, buddy. You can adjust your sails. There is everything around us. It does. It feels so overwhelming. And you could just, all of a sudden your heart can feel so heavy with what's going on in the world. But there are things that we can control. And that does give you, I don't want to say sense of purpose, but it does help ground you a little bit.
It helps ground you. Ground is a great word to use. So let's think about Ashley when she was at David's Bridal and had her exit. Then versus now, how has your definition of success changed? How would you define it? How do you think you defined it then, and how do you define it now?
I think the biggest way I can define success for me right now is I don't use an alarm clock anymore. I mean, a little bit, right? There's some early mornings, but what I mean by that is my heart and my body are excited to get up out of bed and into my day. It doesn't feel like work. I don't think there's been a single day in the last 2.5 years that I did not look forward to my calendar, to all the meetings that I had, to the phone calls, to the events. There's never been a time where I'm like, oh, I've got this event tonight, this happy hour, and it's snowing out, and that hasn't happened. And it's this reminder of I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is fun again. Life is supposed to be fun. I really believe that this life is such a gift. And if I were to give you a gift, I would hope that you would use it and enjoy it and wear it, and not go, oh, this is such a beautiful, perfect gift, and I'm going to put it in this drawer and never look at it ever again. I think God wants us to enjoy and have fun. And building a business, it can be a little fun. We don't have to be that serious, and if you don't have to
save it up and it's just for vacation. I mean, I think that energy thing, it really matters. What's one thing you value today that your past self maybe just didn't put as much importance on?
I always dreamed. Do you remember when Sex and the City came out years ago? And So I dropped out of college and started traveling the world with a different career. And because you're only living in a city for a couple months at a time, it was really hard to make long-term friends. I have a million friends, but no friends. And then I went right into building my business in this girl boss phase where I didn't give myself time to have quality relationships. I had a wonderful husband and I had great business partners and a million clients, but I had no girlfriends. And I always dreamed of having this like Sex in the City crew. I just thought that was so cool to have these women in your life that just, they love you and adore you and see you. And I feel like for the first time in my life, I have a handful of girlfriends. And we go to each other's work events and we hype each other up on LinkedIn. And like, when they receive an award, one of my girlfriends received an award last week and we were all there and dressed up and she's giving her speech and we're crying. And half the reason I'm crying is I finally have taken the time to really invest in some quality female relationships. And I didn't realize how much I was missing that in my life.
Yeah. It's joy. We can grind it out, but if it's really lonely at the top of the mountain. So for anybody who's like, I wonder what it's like at the top is very lonely. It can be. And especially when you don't know where you're going to go from there. So I want to get into, I think it's really important before we wrap, I want to get into actions because I think it's really easy for us to talk about all of this and for someone to think like, well, that's a different story than mine, right? Or this must not be hard for her still or that. What do you do day in and day out? You talked a little bit about the no alarm clock, but what are those 2 to 3 energy rituals, I would call them, right? That like help keep you grounded?
Now. So I'm a little OCD, which I used to hate, but I feel like now I'm using it to my advantage a little bit. And I love, I walk around with notebooks and journals, but I have this thing called a goals journal. And I've used it for about the last 3 years. And I get really clear. So this is the season I'm getting ready for my 2026 one. And I've got stickers and all kinds of cheesy things turned into like a 4th grader. But I put together my goals for the years, and then you break it down into your goals for the month. And then you even go down into your weekly goals and then down to your daily goals. And so every day I have a very clear set of things that I have to get done. And they're nothing crazy. Like I want to be up and out of bed every day by 7 a.m. I want to work out. I want to stretch, less than 30 minutes of Instagram per day. And flossing. I know that sounds so stupid, but like, yeah, right? Because it's like, it makes you feel good. And it's this routine. And so for me, it's doing the same things every day because most entrepreneurs, we're a little scatterbrained and we're all over the place. And so it forces me to have a little bit of control and consistency. And I feel great. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There's some days where I just, the only thing I remember to do is take my vitamins. Okay. just the only check mark I get. But having that consistency and having those really clear goals, because when you do have those shitty days and you're like, I got nothing done this week and today just didn't work out. And, because we all have those days, we don't sunshine every day. But then you can zoom out a little bit and go, hang on, but what's the bigger picture here? Like, I don't have to have a step forward every single day. The bigger picture is this, and I am still going in the right direction.
Yeah. I have a really quick, because I'm not good at journaling. I have a really quick, it's called a 5-minute journal, but it's gratitude in the morning. And yeah. And then what would make today really great? And it's 3 things. And yes, oftentimes I'm finding like this season, I'm a Hallmark movie. I'm like, I just want to watch a Hallmark movie tonight. Like that would feel if I got all my stuff done and I felt like I got stuff done and I could just sit and relax, or I want to go for a walk or whatever it is. Those are the kinds of things that are making my list. It's not the big businessy things that are going to make my day really great.
I love that you mentioned that. I have that. That's part of my routine and it doesn't have to be every day, but it's such a good way to start your mindset off with gratitude. Going back to that negative voice, like that little voice just starts up in the morning complaining, right? Oh, my back hurts and my sleep score was shit and all that. Sorry, I keep swearing, right. But like it forces you to get really, really focused on positive and gratitude and tell that little voice to shut up for a little bit.
Right. And because there is a lot of gratitude in small things. Mm-hmm. If you look back, I call it base camp. Before you decided to join Forever Bride, right, and go on this journey, is there something looking back that you wish someone had told you, right? That you now could tell that younger you? What would it be?
So there's this term that I learned years ago, and I still try to do it, but it's ready, fire, aim. Right? Most people think it's like ready, aim, fire. And what would happen is my OCD, my perfectionism would prevent me from doing so much. And I look back, it's like, okay, if I knew things were going to work out, why was I so nervous to make that Instagram post? Why was I so, I did 14 versions of that YouTube video and then never hit publish because I didn't like my hair that day. And I was so hard on myself instead of just putting it out there. And that's what I would love to go back and tell her of stop nitpicking yourself. Just stay focused on the bigger goal instead of how perfect it is or did you have the right hashtags? Like I would nitpick everything. And again, the bigger I grow businesses and the more that I learn, the more I realize like none of that little stuff matters. It's go out there and do it and make adjustments and do it again. And just, it's better to be, I always tell my kids, done is better than perfect. Like my daughter will sit there and work on her homework and she'll just get stuck. And it's like, baby girl, we just need to get it done. It does not have to be perfect. A B is okay. I'm one of those parents. A B is okay. A B is great. Because working towards an A, but it's 2 weeks late.
And you're burnt out and now you don't like the class. So what, right? I mean, so let's relate this back to the leaders.
Just change my life.
Leaders
done.
We have leaders listening right now, right? That need to hear done is better than perfect, or, they're burnt out. They feel stuck. That's something we're hearing a lot right now. Like I'm stuck, and I'm going to say something might be a little controversial, and sometimes people look at me weird, but I'm stuck in the life I created.
Huh?
I'm stuck in the title, in the salary, in the status, in all of the things. I'm stuck in it. Correct.
Huh?
What advice would you give somebody who's like, I'm recognizing through listening to these two talk that I'm stuck?
Movement. And movement can be sometimes, like for me, when I was really in my low points, sometimes getting out of bed and going for a walk.
Sure.
And moving, right? I struggled a lot with anxiety attacks, and anybody that's ever had like a crippling anxiety attack and you're just on the floor and you don't want to move. My husband was so great. Like he would be like, hey, let's just change rooms. We don't have to do anything huge. We don't have to go for a drive. Let's just change rooms. And I think of that too with like my career. I was so scared to go to David's, and I was so scared even to leave David's. Like sometimes it's just taking those little steps. And for me, it was, going to a local networking event. And I didn't know anybody in the room, but I'm like, it's just the first step. And, sending a couple messages on LinkedIn or reaching out to someone. So it doesn't have to be these big, bold moves of walking in and going, that's it, I quit, I'm out of here, or I'm going to write a book tomorrow and I'm just going to start. Just maybe you start journaling every day, or it doesn't have to be every day. Say, once a week, I'm going to sit down and do my 5-minute journal. Or like there's just these little things and these little things create momentum, and it creates those little successes in your mind of like, okay, I did that small thing. And that's how you start creating trust with yourself too, is like, imagine if you had a girlfriend and, you said that you're going to work out together and every morning she backs out. You're going to stop trusting her that how is that any different? If I say I'm going to work out and then when next morning and I'm not going to go today. So I start losing trust with myself. So by doing small things, little actions, you're building a lot of trust back with yourself, because sometimes those bigger moves are going to require that trust.
That's beautiful. The building the trust with yourself. And it's so true. As we start to wrap here, what's a theme or a message that you hope people who are listening get from your story?
The people you choose to surround yourself with will determine everything in your life, whether you believe it or not. It's like you don't have to believe in gravity in order for it to be true.
Right.
Oh, that's not true. I can hang out with these people on the weekends, but it's not going to affect my professional life. Yeah, it is. Absolutely, It is. And for the better, for the worse, and making some of those small changes. And sometimes they're hard. Sometimes they can be family members. Sometimes they can be a friend that you've had for a very, very long time, and they're not going to understand why you're slowly distancing yourself. But again, that's one of the self-discipline is the highest form of self-love. That's been one of my mottos, like going through this journey the last couple years. Like, I need to do what's best for Ashley. This is the best way that I can love Ashley, because I've spent years taking care of everybody else and making sure that like everybody else around me is comfortable. Everybody else has what they need at the complete sacrifice of myself. And I'm not doing that anymore. And I've learned that I'm actually a lot more productive to everybody else around me when I'm taking care of myself. Like, apply your own oxygen mask before assisting others. I am useless if I am completely burnt out to everyone around me.
And you are an inspiration. You are an inspiration when you do it to other people. Like, you don't realize who's watching.
Yeah. But yeah, those changing those circles, being really intentional with who you spend time with. And sometimes you're going to have people in your life and you don't have to share everything with them. You just because you see them at all those networking events doesn't mean you have to be besties. What was the quote? I don't know if you posted it. It was something about like, we need to stop calling everyone friends. Like, oh, my friend so-and-so, my friend. No, they're an acquaintance. They're a work colleague. They're just someone that I met. We don't have to call everyone friends. That term should be reserved for a very special person. And I like that a lot.
I love that. And I talk a lot about us needing to filter the voices. And that could mean you're still maybe around some of these people, especially when it comes to family, but their voice and their beliefs and fear and baggage don't have to take residence. Right? Like, you can filter them, you can still respect them, but you don't have to kind of let that come in. And the voices you need to be listening to are the people who are trying to do what you want to do.
Oh, I believe that wholeheartedly. I joke that I brainwash myself all the time. 15, 16 years ago, I had a mentor that encouraged me to download this app called Audible. I had never heard of this Audible. And he basically said that, listening to the radio every day in your car is like chewing gum. Like, it's useless. You're like, there's nothing going in. And so I stopped listening to the radio about 15 years ago. And literally I constantly am trying to put stuff in. But it made me think of, I had a girlfriend years ago. And every time we would hang out and I would share, oh, how's Forever Bride doing? And how, I'd share a little something. I'd be real because she was my friend. And the first thing would be, oh my God, that sucks. You should quit. Oh, that sounds horrible. I couldn't do that. You should quit. You should find something else. Like, and so I realized, like, I had that little voice on those hard days. You should quit. That sounds terrible. I couldn't do that. I can't believe you put up with. You should quit. I can't quit. I own it. Like, but you're right. You can't have those little voices bouncing around in your head. You have to be so guarded.
Or an even bigger one, I'm going to be bold here, is hanging out with a bunch of women who are like, my husband sucks. Or like, people do this. And it's like, I just show up and I'm like, no, my husband's fantastic. Like, I don't know what to share. I don't have a lot to share to this conversation because, like, we're all imperfect, but then it starts questioning your relationships in your life. And you're right. It's who you are around is what's going in there and processing. And so we've got to be very careful, even if it's the daily news cycle or it's that best friend or it's your neighbor. You've got to be very careful who you let in.
Well, think of social media. If you sit there and scroll, you are just letting whatever that phone tells you to put in your brain. Like, why wouldn't you guard that with your life? Go through and unsubscribe and say, I don't like this content. I don't want to see this. Like, you have those little 3 dots. You have the ability to go, don't show me that anymore. Right. I controls on my phone because every time I'd open it to check something, next thing you know, I'm scrolling. I'm going, oh my gosh, how did 30 minutes just fly by? Like, I went in here to respond to a message. Like,
30 minutes flew by and my stomach hurts. And I'm like, maybe that isn't the best use of my time.
Not designed to cry 1 minute and laugh another and feel scared another second, all within a 90-second span. Like, our brains can't process those kind of emotions that quickly. It's not good for us.
What's good for us is putting us in the right rooms, which is what you do. So if people want to know more about SOAR, they want to know more about you, what's the best way for them to get more information?
So I think the best way is our website, soargroups.com. And SOAR is actually an acronym. It's Strategic Opportunities to Amplify Results. So SOAR has a lot of meaning. But soargroups.com is the website. But really, I'm a LinkedIn nerd. I love LinkedIn. That's like my Facebook. And so I use it, every once in a while I'll post something personal. I had my first troll recently. They got very upset that I posted something personally. And I was like, you can just keep scrolling on Pat. Take time to let me know that. But I appreciate your comment. I do. I love LinkedIn. I love getting to know people and building communities. And we've got a lot of great people in this town.
We do. And I'll make sure all of that's in the show notes for people that want to search that up if you're driving or running or whatever you do while you listen to your podcast, and put good in. Okay. So the bonus round. So I got a couple questions for you just to get to know you kind of a little more fun. What's your go-to song when you need to reset your energy? What's that hype song for you?
The Higher Love by Whitney Houston and Kygo.
Okay. Love that.
And my husband
hear it
against me all the time.
What's a book, podcast, something that you let in, right, that really changed your perspective?
I'm reading a new book right now called The Energy Bus. It was a gift, and it's one of those like fake stories, and it starts out, a guy's car breaks down, so he has to take the bus. And wouldn't you know, the bus driver is this wonderful person. And you're reading it, you're like, yeah. Okay, I know how this is going to go. But it was a gift, so I felt like I should finish it. And I'm almost done with it going, oh, this was way better than what I was expecting. Some of those books, they start out really easy, like this is a typical bit strat. No, it was really good. So I haven't.
No,
it's cute, and it's all about owning your own energy and being responsible for how you're showing up and how you're getting everybody else excited too.
I love that. If I could give you a billboard and you could put a message on it for every executive to see, what would it say?
Oh, I love that. I keep coming back to you are loved and you are worthy. And sometimes that
you typically say in that environment, but what so many people need to hear right now.
The worthy thing is something that I've been learning to hold on to. And it's funny how many times that can show up even in business of like, oh, I don't know if I should do that, or I don't know if it's too bold of this, but having good people around you that can remind you of, no, you got this. Like, you absolutely are worthy of that promotion. You are worthy. Somebody shared, this month has been fun. Everybody's sharing, upcoming events that they're doing for Christmas. And a lot of our members had a great year. And so they're sharing, we're taking the family to Hawaii, or we're doing this. And it's funny how at first they're hesitant to share, like, oh, we got a new car. It's kind of, and everyone's like, good for you, man. Like, oh yeah, it is. Because you can tell that they've been guarded sharing that good news with people because it must be nice. Oh, you got another new car. Oh, you're taking Hawaii. Hawaii must be. And they're finally in a room where people aren't looking, it's not bragging you're in the right room. And it's so cool to see these people like, oh yeah, I am in a room where I can share my good news, and I can share like I am. It is okay to share those wins when you're with the right people.
That is a beautiful place to end this conversation. Is the theme you've had throughout here is you have to put yourself in the right rooms. You got to pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with. Whether you're at the top of the mountain or you're climbing the mountain, it matters. It matters to what your success and your outlook is going to be when you get to the top. So I want to say thank you again to you for taking a chance on me on the kind of relaunch of this podcast and the stories I want to tell. And yours is a perfect one. And I appreciate you being so open and sharing so vulnerably, because I know it's going to impact somebody on the other side.
I hope so. Thank you. This has been really fun. You're a wonderful host.
Well, thank you for that. And, to all the listeners, the best gift that you could give Ashley or I is to share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Right? So subscribe, share. This is how we spread these messages, how we help each other get through where we're at, because we're all at different points. So I appreciate this community that we are building and that we will continue to build, and the people who are going to come in here and share their journeys. Thanks, everyone.
Success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about what you discover once you're there. Here on View from the Top, we explore the stories, the setbacks, and the inner work that redefine what success really means. If this episode resonated with you, I'd encourage you to share it with someone who might need it right now. And to stay connected, make sure and subscribe so you get notified when we release new episodes. You can connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, or visit my website at jamiepates.com. All of the links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening to View from the Top. We'll see you at the top and beyond.